Hello, my name is Kirk Shannon Butts. I am the Public Art and Curation Manager for the Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts, also known as BOPA. We are here tonight with our finale panel to wrap up our 32nd annual Open Studio Tours and our very first virtual Open Studio Tours. First, before I introduce our panelists today, I'm going to thank and acknowledge our sponsors for making this happen in part with BOPA. First, we have to thank the Maryland State Arts Council, MSAC, and we also want to thank Raka Vodka for stepping in and sponsoring us. So thank you very much. I want to now introduce our panelists. I'm going to let them really speak about themselves. I'm just going to check in with them. First, we're going to go with Joy Davis. Joy Davis is the founder of Weller Gallery here in Baltimore. Next, I'm going to go to Liz Faust. Liz is a curator extraordinaire, and she's also are you the director at Catalyst Contemporary?
One of the co-founders.
And one of the co-founders, which is amazing. Then we have Thomas James. Thomas is the curator at the Creative Alliance. And lastly, we have George Collins, who I feel like we're all going to be hearing a lot more from as he develops this amazing museum that he's undertaking, and I'm going to let him speak about that as we have our conversation. So we're going to have a great dialogue together. The foundation of this forum, this discussion, is Programming 2021. As we all know, we're virtual tonight because COVID came in with a storm and kind of the word everyone is using is pivot. Everyone had to pivot and refocus everything in a virtual way. And for me, it's a little ironic because I feel like I've been in the virtual world for 10 years, particularly when you work kind of doing for yourself, doing entrepreneurial things. You're home, you're on phone calls, you're on video calls. And my background, I love pop culture and I love technology and film. So I've been in the YouTube space forever. So the whole streaming thing and watching things, with COVID, everyone's now watching and watch this on YouTube, on Hulu, watch this on Prime, watch this. I've been there for literally 10 years. So I was that person 10 years ago telling people, watch these little web series that no one would. They were like, I can't watch that. It's like, so anyway, welcome everyone. And Joy, let's start with you. Why don't you introduce yourself for our audience watching us?
Sure. My name is Joy Davis. As Kurt said, I run Waller Gallery. We've been open since 2018. Prior to that, and currently still, I am a scholar of fashion history, African American history, and have been curating and doing scholarly work for the better part of a decade now. So I'm really excited to share the space with everybody on the panel today, but I'm also feel very filled with joy to be able to do something that I truly love, which is Waller Gallery.
And before we go to our next guest, I'm probably going to step in and talk about everyone because I'm so happy to have them with them. As curator, I curate everything. I curated this panel, and I was telling them there were other people that I reached out to, but this is the final curation. And Joy has an amazing gallery. She's being very modest. Her space just feels so welcoming, and her shows are always, I feel like you can just walk up to her, the artist, the art, and just be a part of it. So if you're looking for a really old school, like New York 1982 feel in a gallery, you need to get over to Waller. Like that's what you're going to get there. So we're going to move on to Liz, and thank you, Joy, for providing Baltimore with that experience. So Liz, Faust.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Liz Faust. I'm the chief curator and one of the co-founders of Catalyst Contemporary. We're located in Mount Vernon, directly under Grimaldis Gallery, and we focus exclusively on art that tells stories. So that's really kind of the central point for the art that comes into the gallery space. I also work at Full Circle Photography Gallery, as well as independent curation, as well as teaching at MICA and UMBC. So I kind of do a little bit of everything, from scholarly work to curating to basic nitty gritty in the gallery, installing and patching. And so
my story with Liz, we worked together last year on a project that was very well received. We had guests come from the Smithsonian to view that show, which was amazing. Our artist, Ami, went on to win a major award after that show, a very prestigious award, $25,000 prize. Liz is an amazing curator and friend. Right. So Thomas, James, let's go with you.
Yeah, I'm Thomas James. I am the visual arts curator at Creative Alliance, and I also run the entire visual arts department at Creative Alliance, which includes the 2 gallery spaces, the residency program, which includes 8 residents, 8 amazing residents, as I might add, and all the workshops that go on in Creative Alliance. I make all of that move. And then also some people have seen recently, I've been working with UB Blake to also do some of the exhibitions there. But yeah, so kind of Liz knows we're kind of in the same boat when it comes to doing everything for exhibitions. So yeah, which by the way, I went to Catalyst. Was it a couple days ago, Liz?
Friday.
I saw a great exhibition. Yeah, Friday. So I saw a great exhibition that she has up.
So Thomas is definitely my co-patriot, because we definitely kind of have the same sort of eye when working with artists. And it's really interesting because even though we kind of gravitate towards the same artists, we're curators, so we curate differently. We have a different perspective, even using in highlighting and showcasing, exhibiting the same artist. It'll never be the same because he brings a whole nother thing than I do. But it's always wonderful because going to see his curation and his stories, even just because of the space. He has more space than I have. I was at Baltimore City Hall. I had very limited space. So seeing him curate 25 artists was just so wonderful in one space. And you get this whole journey through it in his eye, as well as how he's trying to unfold the stories, piggybacking on Liz, the stories of the artist. So he's amazing. He's at Creative Alliance, so definitely check that out. It's in Highlandtown. Really, really talented curator. Thank you for being here tonight. So next we're going to go to George Collins. George.
Yes, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. My name is George Collins. I'm president and founder of the African American Firefighters Historical Society. Our mission is to collect and preserve history of firefighters of color and others that made a contribution to such history for the purpose of education, mentoring, fire prevention, and fire safety. And finally, we started a historical society because we didn't have a building, so we couldn't be a museum. So finally, the city Board of Estimates approved the process for us to acquire a old firehouse in the Oliver community on Harford Avenue. And we look forward to our brick and mortar building, and it will be called the International Black Firefighters Museum and Safety Education Center.
Wow. So my story with George is that every day I do what I call my daily research in reading, my DRR, and I came across the story, a news article on George Collins and his desire to open up and acknowledge and honor and memorialize African American Firefighters. So of course I was intrigued. I reached out to him, and I'm so happy to have him on this panel because tonight's panel is all about programming 2021. So not only is he going to be programming, he's going to actually be launching and opening and going through the whole process, because even with that, as you just heard, most of us, you kind of just go to a building or go to your space, but you have a raw space. And it's so funny, I looked at that space because when I first moved to Baltimore, I wanted to have my own gallery, and I looked at that space, but it was so overwhelming. And I was like, that's a huge undertaking. So when I found out we had gotten that building, I was so happy. And also because, you're going to be revitalizing a community that's so important. And also the story of working with Baltimore City, our politics that helped you get this space is really important to know that BOPA, as well as the mayor and city council, they're here for us. You just have to really go through the steps. It might be laborious, but this is a success story. Like, your story is one that people can truly learn by, and it touches so many things. You're going to be doing history, you're going to be doing African American, you're going to be revitalizing the community, you're going to be working with government, you're going to be working with artists, you're going to be working with artifacts. I mean, you're touching so many avenues, right? So that's so wonderful, and I feel like our audience listening tonight will learn a lot from that. So thank you for joining us. Thank you.
I just thought about something. The fact that we've worked with BOPA before, we worked on the first woman who just happened to be an African American, killed in the line of duty in the Baltimore City Fire Department, and the Rachel Wilson Memorial Park and Garden. So BOPA helped us with the mural that's at the 100 block of South Calverton Road, where she was killed. So I just wanted to thank you all for being supportive of our first public project.
Oh, great. I'm so happy. And yes, BOPA has a huge mural department, and that's headed under Chris Brooks.
Yes.
So definitely all our muralists out there, get in touch with Chris. He's amazing. And Baltimore has some amazing public art. And one of the things I'm doing as public art manager is to compile a list of all of our public art spaces. And in my vision is that becomes a visual platform where people from all over the world can access it. They can take virtual tours of each of those public art sculptures, public art murals. They can be broken down if you want to just look at murals. And so, I want to definitely put Baltimore art scene and Baltimore artists and Baltimore curators, all of us here on the national and international scene. And BOPA obviously has the platform and the capabilities to do that. So with that, tell me about, first of all, let's start at March 12th. So March 12th was the day everything changed, right? So that day I was planning an opening. We were having an opening of the Aaron Faustel and the Amani Lewis show that night. We were working all day long. Well, Aaron had finished the day before, earlier that day. So obviously I was in City Hall, and the mayor had the final decision for the entire city, essentially. Were we going to be open or closed? So I was just working because we didn't know. At, I think, 4:30, he finally said, this can't happen. We have to keep the public safe. And literally our lives changed forever, right? So where were you guys on the 12th of March?
We actually had an opening at Catalyst that day as well.
Right.
We had it for Authentic Realities, our represented artist show. We basically were like, everyone come, social distancing, that wasn't really considered a concept yet, but we're like, we're going to limit the number of people who can come. Don't touch each other, stand a little bit away. But some folks came out. And yeah, so we decided to be open for about an hour and a half.
Yeah, I was that day. I was that day. I was definitely. I was going to go to both shows. Like I had plans to go to City Hall and Catalyst. I was kind of planning the night, and I actually saw Amani that day, and he was like, "Yeah, come to the opening, yada yada yada." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm there." And then I was saying, like, "Oh, okay, well, we're close." So
Right.
it sucked, but yeah, but I think I was just working and then just planning to go to the openings. Funny enough.
So I also work at the local art museum, and so I was in the middle of work, planning to go to those events in the evening, but realizing that people, like everything was truly going to be shutting down. It kind of like set in. Prior to everything shutting down in the city, we had planned a pretty big international show with Baltimore artists and also artists from The Hague in the Netherlands. And unfortunately, we had to cancel that show because COVID was affecting people beyond, our sphere of Baltimore and Maryland. And so we were already having conversations about that for about a month or two prior to it hitting hard here in the city. So we eventually ended up canceling it, but that was an ongoing conversation about whether we were going to continue, if it was going to be digital. So we were already having strategic plans about COVID prior to us shutting down. But I was at work sorting out my life like everybody else, leaving their job.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't speak specifically to that particular day, but what happens, the African American Firefighters Historical Society was planning our 10th annual salute dinner, which happens in June. So it starts about March is when we start reaching out to individuals for letters and citations and getting all the honorees straight. So this year was the 100th year anniversary of the first African Americans documented to apply for the Baltimore City Fire Department, even though they didn't get accepted until 1953. In 1920, the first documented African Americans applied. And so that was one, the 50th anniversary of the Vulcan Blazers, which is the Baltimore City chapter of the International Association of Black Professional Firefighters, 50th anniversary of the International itself, as well as Maryland's first African-American woman fire chief, which is out of Prince George's County, Chief Green. So we're ready to get everything together, and then all of a sudden this happens, and it's like, no use in postponing to another time. Just cut all of this off for the year and think about June of 2021.
Wow. So you skip 100 years, you'll go to 101?
Yeah, and it's funny because 101 isn't as sexy, but it also has a historic value because it'll be on the 100th year, the world stopped. So 101 will have a more intense meaning.
Right. That's crazy. So it was so interesting because maybe I want to say, we were doing this whole artist pop-up for Art in August, and I think one of the artists, James Massaquoi, he called me at City Hall maybe a few days before this happened, and he was like, we want to do something outdoors. And I was like, sit tight, because I'm trying to turn War Memorial Plaza into a outdoor gallery, into a sculpture gallery. And then this hit. And so that's kind of how that came about. And then when COVID hit, I was like, we have to do something, because I was obviously working for the mayor. I worked with BOPA before I'm now at BOPA. And I was speaking with Donna and Jackie, and I was like, you can't not do Artscape. Something has to happen. That is like, you cannot not just do Artscape. And so it turned into this artist pop-up with Hot Sauce Artist Collective. And I mean, we put that together, and like, it was amazing that it happened so quickly. But I was just really concerned about people. They needed something to do, and artists needed to showcase their work. And that, as a curator, I still wanted to show art, and I wanted people to see art. And I knew that this outdoor, what I call al fresco, I think that would be so cool. I think it would be modern. I think people would really have gotten into it, which they did. People came out, but it was also a way to introduce, the health part of it. And talk, going back to George, you can make it sexy. It's outdoors, wear a mask, be safe. It's only 2 hours. It's a Sunday. Go have your brunch. Come see us. It's August. It's hot. Meet some friends here. Stay safe. And it worked. I mean, it was unbelievable, successful. The camera crews was out there every week, newspapers, bloggers. It was unbelievable. And of course, it provided a platform for our artists to show their work, which is always the most important thing. And I have a really funny story. It was like this couple came, maybe the last week or the week before the last week, and it was like this cute couple. So when I saw them, I was like, "Excuse me, I'm going to go say hi to this couple." And so I went over to them. I was like, "Hi, I'm Kirk. I'm from Bopa," and I was asking a question. It was like, "Oh, we saw it on television 2 weeks ago, and we got in our cars and we came down. We couldn't find it. So 2 weeks later, they finally found it, and they wanted to meet the artist. They wanted to buy some art. They saw it on television, and it was the best story. Like, two normal people saw it on television, on the news, and they were like, we need to go meet this artist. And they came down. Of course, it was 2 weeks later, so it's a whole new artist going on, but they came out. It was so funny. It was such a wonderful story. I wish I'd gotten the information because it's such a great story.
I just wanted to shout out to George Sissel, who in the comments gave us a really big compliment. And I just wanted to shout him out because he's been hugely supportive to us. That's all.
Right, George Sissel, Micah. Yeah, he's really good for the artist community. Very good.
And the world at large.
Right. Right.
And George was one of my mentors at my time at Micah, so he's definitely very, very supportive.
Okay, so I have a George Siskel story. So one of my very first shows here in Baltimore, working with Stephen Towns, he had Co-Patriot. So during the artist talk, George comes up to me, we're talking, and he thinks I'm Kyle. Do you guys know Kyle Hackett? He's an artist. It was so funny. I was like, Kyle? I'm not Kyle. So that was really funny. And so anyway, that's my George Siskel story. So guys, what's going on with how do you see 2021? Because for me, now I have more spaces as the curator at Bopa. I curate for the Cloisters, for the 27th floor at the World Trade Center, School 33, and the Bromo Arts Tower, Seltzer Tower. And I'm not sure if I'm ready to open up yet. What are you thought? What are you doing?
For Creative Alliance, we had those reservations for a while. The first show that we opened up was our annual big show, which is for our members. And to be honest, I mean, we took the precautions as far as, getting hand sanitizer, getting the masks if people needed them, and then creating a staggered schedule when, kind of like appointment only kind of thing. But we had hours that were kind of staggered.
Right.
So I mean, and we're basically just going to continue that, which is it's definitely easier for us because our space is so big.
Right.
But especially like me, I was being very careful to just deciding what we were going to do, and now I've decided that we're going to open up the second floor gallery to do shows as well. But so it'll be the same formula where we'll have staggered schedules where we'll have a limited number of people that come into the gallery to view whatever show we have on display, and they can go to both galleries to see, because what we decided and we were seeing was that people still wanted to come to see shows. So when we were open, we had we averaged probably around around like 35, 40 people a day when it was like open every Saturday. We'd have like 35, 40 people, sometimes more, sometimes less, coming in every day to come and see the shows. A lot of people bought artwork. So it's very important for us as an organization to keep putting art out there, keep serving our mission, and also put art out there so that artists can make some money, so that artists can have work being seen.
Absolutely.
So I think we're going to continue with our virtual programming, but there's no replacement for doing things in person. So I think for us moving forward, it's just trying to do things in a smart and safe way, so that we can stay open and people can enjoy stuff in person.
Wow.
For us, we are a much smaller space. We were gifted architectural drawings by a woman named Carla at the Neighborhood Design Center. So we are in a position come January to rethink our space and having people in it. Prior to that, though, we are now closed until January because some of our artists and myself have had a lot of personal things due to COVID, due to just the world being the world it is today. And so we took that as a sign to pause. And we don't necessarily have a fiscal mandate to open or not open. Right. And so we postponed the rest of our shows for the year. There was really only 2 shows that we had. In the meantime, though, we partnered with the Baltimore Museum of Art for their Salon series and also did a window display, which I was very surprised that did so well. We did a lot of marketing for it, but a lot of people were using it as photo shoots or thinking of it as they were thinking of our space differently. And that was hard for me to kind of rectify because, like I said, we have a very finite space. We use our space, just like you said, Kurt, it's definitely like jam. If that's like a huge compliment, if ever anyone was ever to give it, but that's definitely what we're going for with the space. So it does require people to be in the space and communicating to each other, be able to hug each other. And so we knew we couldn't provide that. So we didn't want to rush. Hence the window. But come January, we are going to be rethinking actually being in the space. But of course, it would be very limited.
Right.
And we have a whole schedule planned. So we'll see what happens for 2021.
Right.
For Catalyst, our first show since March opened in September. But what we've done is ticketed. So we're open on Thursday evenings, 5 to 7, and Saturdays from 2 to 6. And also Eventbrite, we sell free tickets in order to make sure that there's a limited number of people who wear masks, hand sanitizer. We normally wipe down the space after a group comes through, and we still take walk-ins occasionally when we're open. But there's actually, because the Walters recently opened, then they closed, then they're open again. So the foot traffic hasn't been that much. Unexpectedly, and most people are adhering to the ticket system.
Right.
The biggest thing for Catalyst that this whole situation made us realize is thinking about accessibility, actually. Our space has stairs that require you to go down it, which has been a great hindrance to accessibility. So we've really been doing a lot of research and testing and experimenting with, well, how do we make our space, the art, the stories that we're showing very accessible digitally, virtually, to audiences who maybe aren't comfortable coming in or are unable to come in because of the physical access restrictions. So we're doing 3D scans. We've been traveling to the artist studios with the film crew and doing interviews. We're about to shift our text, a lot of our text on our site, into more audio-based as well. So those who are visually impaired will also be able to hear these stories, because art isn't just something you see, it's something you can experience.
Absolutely.
So it's really made us, even though it's a commercial gallery space, it's really made us shift and realize that art is accessible, and it's really up to us as spaces and curators in order to get that translation across.
Right. It's really interesting to hear you say that, because all of my interaction with Catalyst Contemporary has been through your window. So before Corona, I told you one time, I was like, oh, I was there, but I just was on the outside because it was closed, I think, when I went by there, but I just looked into the window. So I'm really happy that galleries and curators are embracing window exhibitions. They just did one at Current Gallery, which was very successful. And I went to see James Masqua again, and it was brilliant. It's fun, it's modern, it's a whole new element, and I think it's going to stay that the windows will be curated just as the walls in the gallery from now on. And it's obviously, it goes back to taken from retail. You always displayed in window. That's how you got people in. And I think it'll be a new way for gallerists and museums to program and to approach marketing and publicity. You know, generally we would probably put more of a banner out or something like that. But now you can actually put a piece of art in the window to entice people to come in. And, you know, we're normal, or we visit galleries and museums frequently, so we don't have any sort of disconnect with going in. But most people, and particularly in a city like Baltimore, people may not feel so comfortable going into a gallery or welcomed. So I would definitely feel like that is that welcomes people. And even if they don't come in, just they can still be a part of it by looking in the window, right, and seeing the art. And so it's breaking that it's still the third window stays up, but they're still in, right? So that is amazing. I really, you know, I consider myself a futurist, so that is definitely an element that I'm going to embrace, and that's why it was important for me to do the artist pop up and take the art right to the people. And we did notice. I was just having a conversation with Kayla last night, and she was saying how the signage on the street brought people in to the because the sign is so no one's afraid of the sign. Anyone can relate to a sign, but an actual piece of art, people can be. Is that for me? Do I get to see it? Am I welcome to look at that piece of art? But a billboard is paper. It's like universal. Like you can knock it over. People don't feel uncomfortable by it. So I'm happy to hear that you're embracing everything, Liz, and that's amazing. So go ahead, Liz.
And I was going to say that's one thing that since we've been open last year that we noticed that if the gallery door itself isn't open, people were really hesitant to come in. So no matter the temperature, we always have the door open because that lets people know that they can come into the space.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask George, because listening to everything you're saying, Liz, I feel like those are things, George, because you're building essentially. Erecting program, everything. You're starting from an empty building. So are you going to be taking before COVID, people would just build that building and open their museum. So now how is COVID affecting, like, are there new regulations in terms of what you build? How is it working for you?
Well, we haven't gotten to that part as far as the architecture design is concerned, but we definitely we already knew we would have an interactive museum, but now how does that happen since people won't be pushing buttons,
right?
So that is now is an opportunity for some game designers or folks that actually design museum exhibits, to give them an opportunity to figure out how do we have interactive without touching. So that is the first thing that came across my mind. The other part is how many people come to the museum. We're not too far from the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum. So I've been there in some of their summer days and you can't get in. So how is that be getting folks through the museum? What kind of setup would you have to have a free flow for folks to get through? So those are just a few of the things that are on my mind, and I will send those on, just share those with the designers. But those are the two biggest that are on my mind. How do you continue to be interactive without touching, and at the same time, the folks, how do you get them through?
So will it be 2 levels, an outdoor space? What are you envisioning?
Yeah, it'll be 2 levels. So we're looking at pretty much the first floor being the exhibitions, and the second floor will be for the training and the programming. We want to do something with EMTs. We want to do something that individuals need courses because in the Baltimore City Fire Department, or in the fire departments across the state of Maryland, there are certain certifications that you have to have updated. So that type of thing. We want to be able to assist individuals in any way we can in that second floor space, which would be for the programming and offices and that type of thing. And the outside part, we, of course, will have some outside seating and definitely look forward to what we're going to be doing with landscaping to make that place look a little better. And if you don't mind, can I do a slideshow for you?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Since I'm new at this, the tech part. So this is the current building.
Yeah,
That's
love that.
the front.
So George, tell us how old that building is.
The building is 1904. It was built in 1904. So that's another reason why we like it. It's when they built buildings like that, they were solid. Only bad thing about it is it doesn't have a basement because you can't put fire trucks and fire engines. They need to be solid. So it doesn't have a basement. But the historic integrity of the building, I think we were going to be able to do some great things with it. So that's another.
Was it always a firehouse?
Yes.
Again.
Yeah, it was built as a firehouse. Truck 5 was the name of the company that it was built for. And it moves from around the corner. I forgot what street it was on, but it was not too far. I think it was Hoffman Street it was on. So it's not too far from where it is now. And they moved from around the corner. So that's the front of the building. This is the corner. This is the corner that you see as you're coming up Harford Avenue. I learned that it's not Harford Road till you get to the other side of North Avenue. It's Harford Avenue.
Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah, me either, but I learned being a person that was engaged with the community. I said the wrong street at the community meeting, and I was corrected. So,
Baltimore does not play with the city. Get it right.
and being active in my community association, I know it's important that you just don't come to somebody's neighborhood and say, "Hey, I want to do something with that building." You do need to engage them, so they've been supportive as well.
Absolutely.
So that's the south side of the building. This is the rear of the building.
Oh, wow. Oh.
So you see the old hose tower. Everybody would ask, what is that coming off the top of the building? That's the hose tower. Back in those days.
Sal might have gone out for a second. Let's see if he comes back. Well, I hope he has some artist renderings. I want to see those.
Same.
Okay. Oh, here's more.
I have to say that the building that my gallery sits in, and we do live above the gallery, it was made in 1899.
Oh, wow.
So we have about 13, 14 years on on this museum, which is really interesting to think about. I mean, we're a row home, so we're not as architecturally interesting for sure. Right. But it's just so interesting how he's kind of manipulating, transforming this older building, and that's something that we're actively doing in our home / space on a regular basis.
One of the things that I've been talking about during this whole weekend, our open studio tours weekend, is acknowledging artists, studios in these various neighborhoods. Jory, what neighborhood are you in?
So I'm technically in this new old district called Old Goucher. But it is in between Station North and Charles Village. So that is a new thing. It's a new old thing. It was considered the Goucher community when Goucher College was here around the time that this house was built. But since then, it kind of fell by the wayside and got absorbed by whoever decided to talk about our particular few blocks. We're also considered a part of the Barclay neighborhood as well, just because of how like intertwined we are. So we're in a really weird but really wonderful spot. We're really close to a really great row of Black-owned businesses, which I was really proud to be able to purchase a space near, just to be adjacent to them, and just kind of the history of that block, of that kind of section of the neighborhood. And of course, the Safeway is around and all of that at 25th Street.
It's so important, all this weekend to let the city know that artists and the art community is so significant in the revitalization of these neighborhoods. You could have opened your gallery anywhere, but to go to that neighborhood specifically, that most people don't even know Old Goucher. So to go there and open up this space and be a part of the flourishing of that community, and to grow it, because with something different, because a lot of the businesses they're small. So when you have an opening, we're discovering those shops, because I'm sure everyone probably knows the Safeway because it's big and recognizable.
Yeah, I always send people to taste the Centera Cafe.
Right.
So I always try to send, or there's other spaces, so I don't, but they're just like really close to us. So I always send them there if they're hungry artists that are visiting or friends that are visiting the space. It's really important for us to be centrally. Oh, sorry.
You're close to I love going to the little Jamaican strip.
Oh yeah, St. Mary's.
Right. So that's so wonderful. Like, you introduce people to there, so that's amazing. That's how it should be. That's how you revitalize the community, right?
Yeah, I mean, in some cases it's reintroducing. I mean, one of the important factors of us opening in this neighborhood in particular wasn't necessarily the idea to revive. I have some like political issues around that term, and like coming into a neighborhood and reviving it, right? Like, I just don't want to have ownership over any sort of neighborhood, especially that was inhabited by various people for such a long time. But it was important for us to be centrally located so people could come and find us, because I am a bus rider, I'm a train rider, and I just understood the importance of, I don't want to use the word accessibility so loosely, but access to our space in a way that was like central. Because we saw a lot of other really amazing, cheaper spaces around the city, but they just weren't as accessible to reach us. And we knew that we were already going to have a curve, right? Because there's so many wonderful spaces like people are getting to see from George, from everybody here, Liz and Thomas. And of course, you, Kurt, and all the spaces that you're managing now. So it's, we already knew we were competing anyway, so we had to be centrally located. So for us, it was less about the revitalization piece, but I think George's museum, that's a little bit different, right? Because there's like an architectural wonder kind of hidden within, the framework of that space.
Right.
Yeah, am I back?
Yeah.
So this is the architectural rendering. I could hear you even though you couldn't hear me. So this is the architectural rendering that we have so far. So we look forward to the final one and seeing what we got.
So George, as a curator, of course, I'm already analyzing this photo, and I love the red door. I love the building. I love the iconography and the tech, the font. The one thing I'm missing on this building, of course, I love the American flag is great, but is there going to be an African-American flag as well?
We have not decided what we're going to do to show African-American. The American flag is just out there for Firehouse, but that just may be an African-American flag instead of the American flag. It may be the logo of the organization. So we don't know what that flagpole, because the flagpole does exist, and we don't know what we're going to put out there. So
is there a like a international firefighters flag?
The International Association of Black Professional Firefighters has a logo. So that is what they use. Could be a flag, whatever.
Well, we're curators here. We can put you in touch with some textile artists and digital artists who can whip up something that you could turn into a flag or some sort of billboard, if you will. Let us know.
Oh, definitely. I trust me. The greatest thing about, first of all, I jumped at the opportunity to be on this panel because I was like, Oprah asked me. Yeah, I'm a guy that doesn't know anything, and to be on this panel with individuals who have experience. Hey, I'm soaking things up like a sponge, and that's one thing about being a novice. You don't know what you don't know, and every time you find out something new, you want to know how it works.
Right. Right. Well, I can speak on behalf of my experience with everyone on the panel. Baltimore, I came from New York. It is
Okay.
very difficult to collaborate if you don't really know someone. But here in Baltimore, you can reach out to any of us and we're going to help you. We're going to put you in touch with whomever. We all go to each other's shows. We support each other. We're quite friendly. I think Liz and I work together on a show. So when you do that, we know each other very well now. I know her new husband. He and Thomas and I are becoming closer, Joy. But I'm sure as it goes along, we'll all be quite friendly. Now so you're now part of the community, and we
Thank
want
you.
we want your museum to be a success. And I'm looking forward to the opening day. And that's why I wanted you on this panel, because your journey is so significant. And it is a journey that our audiences who are viewing us, because they are not artists and they want to learn, you are opening up a museum. That is a big deal, a huge deal.
Well, thank you for confirming my feelings every day. I get to the end of the day and I said, you didn't do as much as you wanted, but tomorrow's another day.
Right.
You will never get everything you want done, ever. Even for an exhibition, I feel like I am constantly tweaking, and it's like an actual bad habit. So if I could break that for you now, I would. It's just but I think it's what makes us quirky and do our jobs well.
Yeah, when a show is up, I'm still looking at,
And honestly, then nothing's wrong, because you see the photos, the documentation photos, or you see photos people put on Instagram, and we're really fortunate that we have so many people that like post like stories with like taking photos with the images and stuff, and it's all fine and people love it. And there's like, I never hear anything, but it's like, it's in us, right? To consistently make the space beautiful, enjoyable, accessible for everybody involved.
And that's where I thank you, Joy, for language and words, but that's also the importance of it, because the museum and what's inside all the beauty moves out into the community around it. And like I said, most of our galleries are in communities that art has helped transform, though, and uplifted, or whatever the word is. Joy, help me.
I like to say uplift. I try to move away from words that are like transformative, because then it's like I'm the only one with the agency, right? Like I want to inspire and uplift others, and myself, because I'm going to be very honest. The reason, I spent about 5 years in New York, and the reason I moved back to open this space is because I knew it wasn't that the city needed my expertise or my energies. I actually needed them. And they've been so supportive that I wanted to open up a space that supported them, and they could see art maybe that isn't isn't originated from the city, but like that they're interested in, and see that kind of splice together. So I try to uplift where I can in all of my work, but I've been uplifted in the process of just being in the city and building a space over the last few years.
Well, it's also so interesting because I didn't plan it this way or curate it this way, but I'm looking at the complexion and the composition of this panel. Black curators are only 2% in the United States. I don't know if you knew that. So I don't know what the number. So I don't know what the number is for women, but collectively, what we're doing is so important, because we bring a whole new eye to curation. We are totally reshaping the way stories are told visually, and that's so significant. And also, it's important that we also go on into the larger establishment because they need us. They really do to tell their stories in a different way and to fully embrace us. Because I'm sure people in the panel, there was a whole scandal at the Whitney Museum with an art show that she's actually Haitian American. She did this show for Basquiat, and then they did not even invite her to the artist talk for the show she curated, and now it has been a big deal. So things are changing, and it's unfortunate that it has to be so aggressive when all the talent, you are proof that the talent exists. Even George, who hasn't even opened his space yet, just the notion that I can open a museum, again, that is amazing. Amazing.
Well, I wouldn't say it was George's notion. I would say it's a calling.
Right.
Baltimore has the premier, or had the premier African-American firefighter historian, Arthur Smokestack Hardy, here in our midst. An individual, he's died in, I think, the 90s, or late 80s, early 90s. And he died, and that was it. So his collection went to somebody's house, and they were able to now sell it to another museum. But to me, to get these stories and know there's stories behind these stories, and to have those stories die, to me, it's like unacceptable.
Right. Absolutely. So we have a question, even though people are really engaged because it's not really open for questions. I want us to just put it out there. So someone is asking, how can community organizations support you all, specifically Greater Black Chamber of Commerce and Black professional men and others? Oh, it's from Kendrick. You can see.
I don't know if that's directed at George in particular, since he's starting his work. I don't know if Kendrick is still on. I'm happy to answer because we always take help, especially fiscal and fiscal partners. But I feel like George is we want to uplift him as much as possible as his space becomes more solidified. You've had some great. We were talking off air, and I don't know if you want to share, but you had some great milestones that you've hit. So we want to support that as much as possible.
Right.
Yeah, I'm familiar with both those organizations. So the fact that I have somebody that I sent this information to, that is involved, that actually looked at it, opened it up, and was participating, they know I'll be checking them out. I'll be reaching out, because once you put your name out in public, I'm really going to be on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think another way, just in general, to support is really through collaboration, because one of the, whether that's an event, or sponsoring an event, or doing a workshop, doing a panel, hosting something that you all want to do at Creative Alliance, I guess, post-COVID, or at Waller Gallery, or at Catalyst, doing stuff like that, which is bringing different audiences to the space, introducing different audiences to each other, because the people that go to a Creative Alliance event might not be the same as the the Black Chamber of Commerce, and things like that. So kind of opening that up to your organization and your audience is always a great way to support. And it's also it's a collaborative effort. So it makes less work for everybody when we work together.
And I got to reiterate that point, that collaboration really is kind of the strongest part about being here in the city. Just as Kirk and Joy was saying, when you're in New York, that access to collaboration is not as easy, and just really being able to work together with other galleries, other curators and artists. It's not perfect, right, but it's a lot better than a lot of other places. My dream reality is we would have a Baltimore Armory show where every gallery is represented, and every artist and artist studio can have a chance to be represented, and the city collectively represented in a single event. And I think that is
it
possible.
definitely is. And I just want to say that today's thing that you can do is buy some art. Baltimore has some of the most talented artists working today in contemporary art. Baltimore is slowly becoming a hub, and I am so here for it. Specifically because I work specifically with emerging artists and unsung artists, and so I'm going to give you a whole list of artists. Go find them on Instagram, on their website. Email me. There's a Monica Akegwu. I'm sure I'm saying her name wrong. There's Amani Lewis. There's Stephen Towns. There's Christopher Betton. There's Kayla Walker. There's so you guys can join in with me. There's these are all artists.
McKinley Wallace the third.
Oh my God! Amazing.
Yeah. It's too many to name. Merjani Merriweather. Charles Mason the third.
Some French artists like Landis Expandis, who is doing like some amazing videos online.
Aaron Costello with these drawings, amazing. Yeah. Oh my God! Go ahead.
Eric Antonio Benitez, Sylvia Ahmed, Joe Cox, Damon Arhos.
Yeah, Keito, yes.
We've worked with the artist Proxy. Recently, I'm just going to start pulling from people we've just worked with. Marley, Sarah Stefana Smith, Darius Johnson, who we've worked with several times now. There's so many people. And we work with a lot of what I call incoming artists, but there's so many artists out there at varying levels, which means varying price points, but you want to make sure you're supporting them the best you can. Don't nickel and dime artists, please.
And also the whole, one of the focus of this open studio tours that we visited, Sharina Ashanti Christmas, who's a choreographer and dancer. So we want to support other disciplines of art. We went to a tiny sculpturer, Jill Orliff today. We saw a textile artist yesterday. So there are many iterations of art, and they all need your support. So definitely check them out. So as we talk about, the topic was, go ahead.
I want to just plug our Patreon. So I would just encourage you to go to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/Waller Gallery. And what we do is any money we get from that, we spend on the artists. And so we're starting to build kind of a trust, if you will, to pay artists that work with us. Because our space is small, we don't offer representation. So this is a way for us to pay them, give them some support, even if it's like a micro stipends, but we can give that to them. And also I want to triple say to do collaborations. It's really important. And even if it's not I said fiscal collaboration, because obviously that's the one that can bear the most fruit for everyone involved, or at least for the artists and for them. But other collaborative work is really important. So if you could provide space to folks, do one-off projects very similar to what Kurt is doing with Hot Sauce Collective, I believe is their name. All of those projects happen because of collaboration. And so there's so many ways to do that. And then also it's a little small, but another way you can assist is just reshare, like go to these spaces, take photos, Instagram, Facebook, the whole thing. It might seem very simple and small, but it actually really does get eyes on work.
And also, that's one of the things I'm working with Micah at BOPA is how getting people on board with how metrics now translate to fiscals, to money, to dollars, and also the importance of embracing events are now content. It's not just an event any longer. It's no longer just an opening. That is content that gets numbers, gets views, gets likes, and we can translate that into money outside of, you can now go to Coca-Cola or a company and say, we have 1,000 of these. You don't even need tens of thousands. You just need a core base that they're trying to drink their drink, buy their nail polish, whatever. We have this, and they will. That's the world we live in. They will, and they'll support you. And particularly now in the age of Kardashians, that's how funding works. If you're going to be in the modern world and you're going to survive, you have to embrace it, because that's the new normal. That's part of it, right? So as we wrap up, I just want to ask everyone, what shows are you working on? And one of the last shows I was working on is a show with an artist that I am. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to happen, but Ernest Shar, that was my last show that I was working on at the gallery in Baltimore City Hall, and it will happen somehow and somewhere. But that was the last show that was programmed. And so, what are you guys working on for 2021?
George, did you want to go? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you. So right now at Creative Alliance, we have our fundraiser exhibition, which is it's like very high quality art at a very good price. So for example, we have some really great artists, most of them Baltimore based, that are selling work at very affordable prices, such as Joyce Scott, such as Schroeder Cherry, Jerry Prettyman. Kei Ito, these are great artists that would love, that we're very grateful that are supporting Creative Alliance in this way. So we really want the public to get in there and not only to support Creative Alliance, but also support these artists and be able to have super high quality work on your walls of your office, or wherever art needs, wherever you would like it to live. So that's the big thing that we're working on right now, and that will continue into. It opens November 7th and it closes January. Oh God, I don't want to make it. I think it's January 9th. So that'll be our first thing. The Cracking Open 2021 will be wrapping up that exhibition.
And every single one of the things mentioned are collectible. They can be the foundations of our art collection. So yes. Mm-hmm.
So at Catalyst, we have until fall of next year already planned out. The next exhibition is a duo with Marjoni Merriweather and William Deuterer, who's a deceased artist, actually. Following that, we have a solo exhibition featuring Si Jong Cho. And then following her, we have a duo exhibition with Nara Park and Holly Roberts. And then a solo exhibition featuring one of our represented artists, Damon Arhos, that I am super excited about in the fall.
Wow.
So our next show will be in January. I think it's coming out in about mid-January, and it'll feature Philadelphia artist Noel Puelo, who is an excellent seamstress and is designed this work. You can't really see it because of the lighting, but I'm wearing their work and they're incredible. And now I will be pairing their work with Rebecca Miramutu, who is an alum of Micah's graduate school. And I'm really hoping that we can have Ada Pinkston come back with us for another show and collaborate with all of them together. And so that'll be in January and it'll run through February. And you all will stay tuned to our calendar. It'll be up on our website and we're going to be updating it as well in our space. So we have a lot coming up and we will be documenting a lot of it. So it'll be on our Instagram as well.
Well, we're after the acquisition and the building becomes totally ours. We'll be, like I said, we have the two architects. So we'll have an architect and developer working on the final rendering of the building. And of course, the construction phase, first the stabilization phase, and then we'll be working simultaneously. Oh yeah, the biggest thing is the museum board. The African American Firefighters Historical Society board has a mission, then the museum board will have another mission. So yeah, so we're working on that, and that should be in place the first of the year. And of course, looking at opportunities for funding, as Kurt said earlier, we had some grant opportunities that we were able to apply for over the summer. The state, the 45th Legislative District presented a bond bill that was accepted.
Wow.
So we look forward to
working with
city and state leaders, see what else is out there. Any other nonprofit or foundation that has this as their interest. In addition to corporate, we want to speak to some of those folks. We have a individual that we said was interested from a Fortune 50 company that they wanted to make sure that we had ownership. Because what I kept saying in conversations with the individuals at the city agencies is people aren't going to give to something until they see what the city's buy-in is. Right. So if the city's buy-in is not even to let us have the building, even though they're selling it to us, they're not giving it to us, and it's not $1. Just, if people don't see that you have buy-in enough to let our organization have a building that's been empty for 20 some years, then what are they going to say? So we'll be doing that type of thing, just building. And of course, we'll be doing the museum exhibition thoughts and processes at the same time we're doing the construction. So that'll be a dual process. Right. But that's enough to get us through 2021.
Right.
We started.
Right. Well, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I want to urge our viewers and the public to go on to everyone here's website and find them on Instagram. And it's really wonderful that people were asking us about how to support us. And so we all need your support. BOPA needs your support. Creative Alliance, Contemporary, Catalyst Contemporary, Waller Gallery, the new Fire Museum, Firefighters Museum. We all need your support. So you can find us individually online. You can obviously reach out to me at BOPA, and I'll put you in touch with our panelists. And I want to thank our sponsors who got us here tonight. First, BOPA and the Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts for this is my first time doing it, and it's our first time doing it virtually, so I'm very excited. I hope we can continue these sort of conversations and maybe move it over to Waller Gallery the next time, then the Catalyst, and then eventually when you open, George, we could broadcast from there and then come. So I think we're about to leave, and I want to thank you all, and this concludes the 32nd annual Open Studio Tours. And again, thank our sponsors, Reka Vodka, which I'm wearing, and the Maryland State Arts Council. So thank you all, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you offline soon, and thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kurt.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.